They had a show in Chicago. Eddie Griffin was the headliner. Got him up, dog. Me and Eddie, we be talking on the phone now. We always knew each other, but I'm saying, like, he kept trying to get in touch with me, he said. I was scared of Eddie at first because I thought he wasn't approachable. You know what I'm saying?
You know what happened? You should have never sued the liquor company. That's what up. You up. They don't give a fuck about you tearing up booty holes. Up when you sued the liquor company.
So when I'm ad-libbing on the show to save this, you understand me? You sending me doo-doo, mother.
I mean, do you feel that Hollywood is still racist?
No. Hell, yeah, they racist. Is you crazy? Did you see the new movie about Mo?
Doing a civil suit against Tyler Perry. He didn't. I don't know if he put any criminal acts against him, but it's real funny, man, how stuff I talked about years ago.
Eddie Griffin is finally speaking up, and what he's saying about Tyler Perry is seriously disturbing. After years of rumors, whispers, and people acting like nothing happened, Eddie claims he's seen enough behind the scenes to know the truth. And now that Tyler Perry is facing a massive lawsuit, Eddie's warnings are starting to hit different. So, what exactly did Eddie say Tyler did to him? And why is it blowing up now? Stay tuned, because this tea is not light.
All right, you see the money they'll put behind an unknown white talent just starting out.
I noticed that he climbed into bed with me as well and started rubbing my leg. And I jumped up out of bed.
$60 million lawsuit just filed against Tyler Perry. The media mogul calling it a shakedown.
It's really, really unfair.
Eddie Griffin is now 55 years old, and he's finally speaking up about what he claims Tyler Perry did to him. We're talking about alleged behind-the-scenes power plays, intimidation tactics, and stories that suggest people stayed quiet for years because the pressure was just that heavy. And the wild part? A lot of Eddie's old warnings are suddenly resurfacing now that Tyler Perry is being dragged into a major lawsuit.
Told me this. Once you hit some licks out here and they start you, then they come to you. They be like, so, how big of a star do you
No
want?
motherfucker idea what it is to be a young black male. So when table read comes, me and Malcolm got to tweak script, but we ain't getting the writing credit.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you're doing the work of the white writers.
You understand me?
But you're not
So
getting
when
paid.
I'm
Who's hiding? Where you at? You freak all peoples. They coming to get you. Diddy singing right now. He's singing high notes, low notes.
We put too much pressure on Tyler Perry. You know what I mean? He ain't put nobody on. The people that been in his...
Because yes, Tyler Perry is now facing a $260 million lawsuit filed by a male actor from one of his shows. And the internet is already side-eyeing everything, especially since Hollywood's biggest predators have been getting exposed one after another lately. So with this lawsuit making noise, Eddie's "I've been telling you all" moment is hitting different. If what Eddie's saying is true, this could shake Tyler Perry's image and the whole empire he built. So yeah, let's get into it. Before the drama, Eddie Griffin's story starts way back. He was born on July 15, 1968, in Kansas City, Missouri. Raised in a very tough environment where survival wasn't optional, it was daily life.
Where'd you grow up?
Planet Earth. I came out my daddy nutsack. I beat the rest of the egg. Then I fell out in this little town called Kansas City, Missouri.
You didn't stay there?
No, I stayed there, formative years of childhood to around age 15, and then moved to Compton, California.
What area were you living in?
Nutty Block. Palmer Block was right around the corner.
So it's a fairly crazy block.
It's a neighborhood. You know what I mean? When black men are systematically locked up, money is taken out the education system.
His mom, Doris Thomas, was a single mother working long hours as a phone company operator, doing everything she could just to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real, and it shaped him early on. Eddie also grew up in a strict Jehovah's Witnesses household, which played a big role in how he saw the world. And later on, that same strict upbringing became the kind of life experience he could flip into jokes. Because that's always been Eddie's thing. He didn't run from struggle, he turned it into material. By the time he was in school at Lincoln College Preparatory Academy, Eddie had already built a reputation. He wasn't the athlete type or the teacher's favorite nerd. He was the class clown. And he owned that title for 3 straight years. But it wasn't just jokes for attention. Eddie had this talent for making people laugh even when life was hard. Like, he learned early how to turn pain into punchlines. And even though some teachers loved him and others probably wanted to send him to the principal every day, one thing was obvious: this kid was gifted. He had that natural timing, that confidence, that spark you can't teach. Then at just 16 years old, Eddie was already moving like a businessman. He opened his own dance studio, and he was actually good enough to land a job choreographing halftime shows for the Kansas City Chiefs. So for a while, it looked like his life was finally heading somewhere stable. But in 1989, everything shifted. One night, Eddie was at Sanford & Sons Comedy Club, just hanging out, when his cousin dared him to get on stage. Eddie had never done stand-up before, not once. No script, no rehearsal, no safety net, but something in him wanted to prove he could do it. So he stepped up. What happened next? Pure chaos, in the best way. His 3 minutes turned into almost 45 minutes because the crowd wouldn't let him stop. Eddie was on fire, just pulling jokes out of real life. His family, the neighborhood, growing up black in America, and somehow he made it all funny. The room was locked in. People were screaming, laughing, and begging for more. That moment changed everything. Eddie walked off that stage knowing his life wasn't going back to normal. And he didn't waste time either. Within weeks, he gathered every dollar he could find, bought a one-way ticket to Los Angeles, and left Kansas City behind. His mom thought he was losing it. His friends assumed he'd come crawling back in a few months. But Eddie didn't care, because he had tasted what it felt like to own a room, and he wasn't about to let that go. Eddie headed to California on a Greyhound with nothing but big dreams and raw confidence. He was a kid straight from the projects who could make people laugh, walking straight into Hollywood, where everybody has talent, but barely anyone makes it. And at that time, Eddie had no clue his name would end up one day tied to a messy industry drama and powerful people who didn't like being challenged. When he arrived in Los Angeles in 1990, reality hit fast. Within months, Eddie was homeless, bouncing between benches and shelters, still trying to get stage time anywhere that would let him touch a mic. He did whatever jobs he could, painting houses, washing dishes, just to survive while he chased comedy at night.
So you give us coke, it's the only option to make money, we're going to flip that. And, whenever there's money involved, comes into action because motherfucker, and then motherfucker, and then motherfucker get snitch, and so on and so forth. Right. So it's a vicious wheel. Yes.
Nutty Block is a crip block.
Yeah.
Did you ever get involved in any of that?
No, I don't do gangs. I have a gang called Me, Myself, and I.
Like, how did you...
Then his luck finally cracked open. Eddie created a parody of Andrew Dice Clay that was so accurate, it started spreading around the comedy scene like wildfire. Even Clay heard about him, and instead of getting mad, he was impressed enough to take Eddie on the road as his opener for a 22-city tour. Just like that, Eddie went from struggling to eat to performing in front of thousands. But the real legend era kicked in at the Comedy Store. Eddie just didn't do sets, he did marathons. He would stay on stage so long the crowd would be drained from laughing, and other comedians would hate going on after him because he left nothing for them. That's how he earned the nickname Endurance King, because no one could match his energy or keep a room locked in like he could. And while all of this was happening, Eddie started noticing things that didn't feel normal. Some hecklers seemed way too coordinated, certain audience members felt planted, and a few random moments looked staged on purpose. That's when Eddie started believing the industry had ways of watching comedians and controlling the ones who got too influential. In 1991, Eddie finally landed a role in The Last Boy Scout alongside Bruce Willis, and Hollywood officially started paying attention. But even with real opportunities finally showing up, Eddie didn't soften up. He still kept the same attitude, say what he means, joke about the uncomfortable stuff, and never pretend everything is fine just to stay in good graces. Eddie's paranoia about planted hecklers didn't go away. It became part of how he moved in comedy. He later pointed to one incident in Oakland, where a woman threw a drink at him on stage, and he believed it wasn't random at all. In his mind, it was meant to scare him and sent a message to other comedians who spoke too freely. When the woman tried to sue him after that, Eddie fought back and actually won. But the whole situation only made him trust the industry even less.
I remember I interviewed John Amos, who played the father on Good Times. And he told me that...
It didn't actually threaten his writers. I promised them.
Wow.
There was a difference. I promised them that there were going to be some severe repercussions if the stuff continued.
Yeah, I had problems with the writers all the time on that show. The show was about two young, black, talented individuals. And, we owned our own bar and shit like that.
By the mid-90s, Eddie had already built a name as one of the boldest comedians in the game. He didn't soften his opinions, and he didn't care who got uncomfortable. But while Eddie was building that truth-teller reputation, another black entertainer was coming up in a completely different way: Tyler Perry. Perry went from a rough past to becoming one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, but Eddie couldn't help noticing that Perry's rise looked way smoother than most people's. Eddie first clocked Tyler Perry in the early 2000s, when Perry's stage plays started blowing up in the South. What stood out right away was the Medea character, Perry in a wig and dress playing a loud comedic matriarch.
It's hot as hell in this Cadillac, honey. I don't have no air conditioner.
You have one, eh?
I want a ham, an egg, and a cheese biscuit, okay? Hello?
And to Eddie, it felt like the total opposite of the image he built his career on. Eddie's brand was raw and masculine, while Perry was leaning into drag comedy and building a massive following with it.
We put too much pressure on Tyler Perry. You know what I mean? He ain't put nobody on. The people that been in
As Perry moved from plays to blockbuster movies like Diary of a Mad Black Woman and Medea's Family Reunion, Eddie started looking at the situation differently. It wasn't just that Perry was successful, it was how fast the industry seemed to embrace him. Eddie had to fight for every inch, yet Perry looked like he was being handed opportunities with the red carpet rolled out.
Medea, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Are you going out on Black Friday?
What the hell is Black Friday? Every Friday is Friday. I'm black. That's a Black Friday. What you talking about? I don't even know what the hell a Black Friday is.
Then Eddie started hearing the whispers. Stories from actors and comedians saying the vibe around Perry's sets could feel tense or uncomfortable, like people had to tiptoe to keep their spot. Some claimed the boundaries didn't always feel strictly professional, and others felt like Perry's power made it risky to speak up or push back.
So you're doing the work of the white writers.
You understand me?
But you're not
so
getting
when
paid.
I'm ad-libbing on the show to save this, you understand me? You sending me doo-doo, mother.
I mean, do you feel that Hollywood is still racist?
No. Hell, mother, that ain't racist. Is you crazy? Did you see the new movie about Moses?
Right.
How the is the gladiator dude Moses? The out of here. This is in Africa, not some small village in Sweden. Who comes up with this? That's like me playing JFK. Eddie Griffin as John F. Kennedy. The movie gonna start with my black ass getting, then the rest of the movie's about the white detective trying to figure out who did it.
And over time, Eddie felt the gap between them became even more obvious. Eddie kept getting heat for his opinions and social commentary, but Perry seemed protected from serious criticism, even when people complained about the way his stories portrayed black women and families. What really made Eddie suspicious was Perry's business setup. Tyler had rare control in Hollywood, owning his work, running his own studio in Atlanta, and moving like he didn't answer to anybody. And the more powerful Perry became, the more Eddie noticed one thing: anyone who questioned him seemed to get shut out fast, while the people who praised him stayed winning. To Eddie, everything he noticed over the years began to feel like one big pattern. The more Tyler Perry gained, the harder it became for anyone to openly criticize him. It honestly felt like Eddie and Tyler were always headed for a clash, because they represented two very different versions of black entertainment, and only one of them seemed protected by the industry.
I did a movie called Precious.
I loved it.
When we did the contract, he said you had 5% of the film. The film goes to Sundance, and it begins to get all of this praise. Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey get involved with Precious. They become executive producers. When it came, he does such nice things for people. He does, but he's gonna make sure you know about it. He's gonna make sure you knew. Okay, then, Red Grant. We knew he had Whitney Houston on the plane. We knew he paid for the girl's house when it burned down. We knew he left a $3,000 tip.
She made it public in the book. For the last 15 years of her life, I took care of her. She made $6,000.
Wow.
That was all she made.
When she did it back then.
When she did Sounders. So she came to work from Why Did I Get Married? One day, I paid her $1 million.
It's like, listen, when you do things from here, that's between you and the universe.
Then June 13, 2025 happened, and the whole internet basically froze. A 46-page lawsuit was filed against Tyler Perry in Los Angeles Superior Court, and it came from actor Derek Dixon, who reportedly appeared in 85 episodes of The Oval. Dixon is seeking $260 million in damages, claiming years of venereal misconduct and professional retaliation from one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. Now here's where it gets even messier. The lawsuit claims Perry met Dixon back in 2019 at a party in Atlanta, where Dixon was working as event staff. Perry allegedly took interest in him right away, started offering him roles, and made it sound like his life was about to change. But according to Dixon, what began as mentorship slowly turned into pressure and inappropriate behavior.
First alleged incident?
I got into bed and then I noticed that he climbed into bed with me as well and started rubbing my leg. And I jumped up out of bed. Unless someone's been through something where they have their control over their bodies taken away, you don't really understand the kind of feelings that you get in that moment.
The lawsuit also says Perry allegedly sent explicit messages, including one where he asked what it would take for Dixon to do things guilt-free. And when Dixon reportedly tried to keep things professional, the claims say Perry didn't back off. Instead, he used his influence over Dixon's career as leverage. Dixon also alleges Perry crossed physical boundaries, like touching him in bed, sending suggestive messages, and even grabbing his throat while asking if he liked things rough. And the most serious claim points to an incident in June 2021, where Dixon says he was invited to Perry's mansion to discuss a pilot for a show that he wrote. But instead of a business meeting, he says Perry cornered him in the guest house, pulled down his underwear, and groped him without consent. According to the lawsuit, the alleged behavior followed a pattern: get close, offer opportunities, then slowly push boundaries while keeping the victim dependent on the next career move. Dixon even claims that when his character on The Oval got hit multiple times at the end of the season, Perry made it clear the character's future depended on his cooperation. And for Eddie Griffin watching all of this unfold, it basically felt like everything he suspected was finally coming out. Because the same man known for clean moral messaging and Christian values was now being accused of using his empire to control and exploit people behind the scenes.
I mean, you talked about the whole Malcolm and Eddie thing. Like, what do you think was some of the most racist things that you've dealt with being in Hollywood?
Hollywood, man.
Just Hollywood in general?
Yes. 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 You know, all right, you see the money they'll put behind an unknown white talent just starting out, right? When we all came out, this goes from Martin's show to me and Malcolm's show to Jamie Foxx's show, so on and so forth.
Once the lawsuit went public, Tyler Perry's polished image started cracking fast. And Eddie Griffin didn't look surprised at all. If anything, he seemed like he'd been waiting for this moment. In interviews and online posts, Eddie basically acted like the curtain had finally been pulled back on what he claimed he'd known for years. Eddie didn't hold back either. He framed it as a bigger industry problem, saying Hollywood has a habit of protecting powerful men while everyone else gets silenced. He even compared Perry's behavior to other major figures accused of similar things, implying Perry wasn't some mastermind, just sloppy, obvious, and finally caught.
They had a show in Chicago. Eddie Griffin was the headliner. Got him up, dog. Me and Eddie, we be talking on the phone now. We always knew each other, but I'm saying, like, he kept trying to get in touch with me, he said. I was scared of Eddie at first because I thought he wasn't approachable. You know what I'm saying? We gonna find a way. We gonna do some shit. movies and everything, but you know, after talking to him, it's just what I thought. They came at him with that bullshit. He told me this. Once you hit some licks out here and they start with you, then they come to you. They be like, so, how big of a star do you want to be?
How deep is your mouth? Let's see.
I know they come at you. Why y'all acting like y'all motherfuckers just getting it and ain't taking it? You never hear these motherfuckers talk about what they did for licks. You've been violated. They ain't gonna let you have it without it.
Eddie also shared stories from events and parties where he claimed Perry's behavior around younger men felt off. He described situations where Perry allegedly got inappropriate after drinking, crossed personal boundaries, and made people uncomfortable in ways that didn't look like jokes anymore.
I looked at the gentleman over there, and it was Tyler Perry. I was like, oh, snap. I said, yo, little ninja, let me find out you wake up in the morning and Muddeer's in the room with you. Man, he sent my man 2 bottles of champagne over. I was like, yo, Black, you know it?
But Eddie's claims didn't stop at Perry alone. He hinted that Perry had people around him whose job was to handle problems before they became public. According to Eddie, when someone tried to pull away from Perry or limit their involvement, these handlers would allegedly step in, offering money, career favors, or quiet warnings that their future could get messy. He also suggested there were unspoken rules tied to casting, like certain roles came with expectations beyond acting. In Eddie's version of events, people who refused would suddenly get written out, while the ones who played along stayed, winning with bigger storylines and more screen time.
You know what happened? You should have never sued the liquor company. That's what up. You up. They don't give a fuck about you tearing up booty holes. Up when you sued the liquor company, because the liquor company is owned by the biggest conglomerate on earth, the BlackRock people. You done bit off the hand that was feeding you, and now you done chop both your feet and your hand off. Your head's coming next. You was making money with Ciroc. Just shut up. You just thought your ego got out of whack because you was controlling everything at them freak parties. Now you think you control the hand that's feeding you. He sued the liquor company May 2023. November 2023, Cassie come up with the lawsuit. Connect the dots. Cassie got 2 checks. She got a check from the mother liquor company people that put her up to doing that, and she got a check from Puffy to try to keep her quiet. Too late. Think. It ain't illegal yet, but they work.
And then Eddie went even darker. He implied that crossing Perry could lead to strange bad luck, like sudden career crashes or weird accidents. He didn't fully accuse anyone of anything specific, but the message was clear. Eddie believed Tyler Perry's empire wasn't built on talent alone. He believed it was built on fear, control, and keeping people quiet. For Eddie Griffin, this wasn't just about dragging Tyler Perry's name. He made it clear he saw it as something bigger, like he was calling out the whole machine behind Hollywood. In Eddie's eyes, powerful people don't just get protected by luck. They get protected because the system is built to keep them safe, while the people underneath them take all the damage. But the moment Eddie started speaking up, he claimed the consequences came fast. He said he began getting threats from people he didn't even know, basically warning him to shut up. And instead of scaring him into silence, Eddie took it as proof that his theory was real. He's always believed that once a performer gets too influential, the industry starts watching them even closer, trying to control the message. And now he felt like that was happening to him in real time.
You're nervous, ain't you? Who's hiding? Where you at? You freak out peoples. They coming to get you. Diddy's singing right now. He's singing high notes, low notes. And that nigga was there too. And so was she. And that senator was there too. Clive was there. Yeah. Hey.
Even with that pressure, Eddie kept talking. He hinted that Tyler Perry wasn't moving alone, and that there were bigger names around him who helped keep things quiet for years. Eddie claimed these people had clean public images, but played dirty behind the scenes, making sure complaints never reached the wrong ears, and making sure victims stayed isolated. He also doubled down on his industry plants warning, saying he believed people were being put in crowds on purpose to cause trouble during shows. The goal, according to Eddie, was to trigger incidents that could be used to embarrass him, ruin his name, or make him look unstable. And he suggested some of these people were tied directly to Perry's side, while others were part of a wider effort to silence anyone considered too outspoken. Then Eddie brought up the money. He claimed Tyler Perry's wealth wasn't just luxury, it was leverage. In his view, money could be used to keep people quiet through payoffs, NDAs, giving accusers just enough to disappear and start over, as long as they never spoke again. By the end of it, Eddie painted Tyler Perry as one example of a much uglier Hollywood pattern, where success isn't always about talent, but about who you obey, what you tolerate, and what you're willing to ignore. And the main point Eddie kept pushing was this: speaking up in that world can cost you everything, and that's exactly why so many people stay quiet. And that's where this story gets even crazier, because if Eddie Griffin is telling the truth, then Tyler Perry's empire might be built on way darker things than anyone expected. So what do you think? Is Eddie exposing real industry secrets, or is this all just timing and controversy? And if Hollywood really protects powerful people, who's next to get exposed? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button, and if you stayed till the end, be sure to subscribe for more tea just like this.